Jai Hind and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. As you can see, I have with me Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia. Someone I've been discussing the India-China standoff for a long time now. We've pretty much gone through Corps Commanders conferences one after the other, straight from the time of the disengagement of Pangong So right to the moment now where we feel we are stuck. Thank you, sir, for joining me today for another roundup of India-China. Of course, the past few have not had many developments. We do see some tactical developments on the ground with regards China is concerned. We'll discuss them. But thank you so much for joining me to take us through what's the situation.
Thank you very much. Honored to be on Defense Dev Talks, and always a great having a conversation with you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So, a more aggressive posturing by China, we've seen not only at the LAC initial first couple of years, first year, we saw them, mellowing a little bit, but I think the aggression seems to be coming out. There are 30 new airfields which have come in the internal areas. Before we talk about the much spoken about the bridges, I'd like to speak about this because this was one of the uh, lower edge, the high upper edge that India had with regards air power. We see Chinese working on that pretty hardcore. Two of these airfields, as per some reports, are already operational. How do you see this, sir?
Adi, I see this differently. It is 2 years since Galwan. Galwan was a benchmark. It had a number of strategic, operational, and tactical lessons for both us and the PLA and China, of course. And since the last 2 years, what I see is along the line of actual control, I see no escalation. But the strategic intent of China still remains the same military position. We surprised China by resilience, by resolve, and China thereafter has ensured that whatever shortcomings it felt it had, it is overcoming that. One of the strengths which India had was the T3 advantage in the Indian Air Force. That is the technology, the training, and the terrain. Better pilots, better aircraft, and we had terrain advantage because our airfields are closer to the high Himalayas, and they were taking off and landing from their main and satellite airfields both at altitudes of 4,000, 4,500 plus, which are disadvantage to them. So what they're actually not trying to do is they're trying to overcome that weakness of theirs by having multiple airfields all along, and that's how you find they already existed a multimodal infrastructure over there with rail, roads, and air, and they are now upping that, making it better, improving upon it. Not that we are not doing it. I'm not saying that we're not doing it. We're also doing it. But of course, as far as infrastructure is concerned, as far as airports are concerned, they are far ahead of us.
Not a very happy thing to hear, sir, I must say. So air power is something that the Chinese also recognize, and I think they're working pretty much towards it. Talking on ground, sir, couple of days ago, there was this huge debate when a couple of satellite images came out with regards to this bridge that has come up past the finger eight at the Pangong. So, and of course, rhetoric aside, uh, my main question is why Pangong So, sir? Because there is a buffer zone which has already been created. There is a disengagement which has already happened over there. What is the Chinese trying to do by building up this bridge within that area, sir?
Yeah, we all prepare for a worst case scenario. I'm not saying that you have war tomorrow, conflict tomorrow, skirmishes can happen, it can spiral out. So we've got to prepare for war. Preparation for war is what ensures peace. What they're actually doing is they're looking at the high value targets along the manufacturing, and they are looking at operational mobility, tactical mobility, and battlefield mobility. Wherever they have found weaknesses in the battlefield mobility and operational mobility, like moving of troops and reserves on either side of Pangong So was time consuming because they had to go back to the Red Hawk plains and then come on a different axis. They could cross the lake. Obviously not, because the lake, you can't cross very many things on a boat. Boats have got limited capacities, especially altitude, even otherwise also. So what they've done is they created a bridge and they're on their side of the line of actual control. What is all be occupied with them. Now this helps them. And it's not one bridge. They first look at the plan. They create a bridge to support a major bridge. So that on which you can move air vehicles, you can move guns, you can move troop carrying vehicles. So you can move your combat power on that. So what he's trying to do is he's creating complementarity between the north and south bank of Bengal. So, he's overcome the terrain disadvantage which he had on either side of Bengal also. So he's overcoming that by creating this bridge. So he's looking deep. He's looking there to stay. That's why he's creating the bridge. There's a sure indicator that he's there to stay. So de jure, de facto, that territory now figure 8 and east of it, he's there. It becomes this. Yes, we had disengagement there. We had a sort of what we started calling buffer zone. I don't understand what is a buffer zone, because what we used to call a no man's land. So we don't patrol, he doesn't patrol. So that's a part of no man's land. But the fact remains that he is preparing for contingencies if and when, as and when required. He has the residual of combat power to shift on the other side. So that is Bengal also. So you find him, he already has a multi-modal state-of-the-art infrastructure. He's got the eastern highway, the western highway, the central highway. He's connected that. He's got the QTR, the railways coming up to Yatong, going beyond now, right? Beyond. He's got the airfields, right? And moreover, he's also got the strategic forces command, something which we do not have. So he is creating capabilities and he is going to keep putting pressure on us. That is part of the military coalition, and he's preparing for the worst case scenario. So are we. It's not that we're not preparing, we're also preparing. Unfortunately, we should not get involved in too many other things. Our focus has to remain on our number one adversary, which is China. China has a long term aim of keeping us tied down to the continent so that we address the strategic concern and vulnerabilities in the oceans. But we should also create, if not matching capabilities, relatively strengths in matching capabilities. Like we have a terrain friction. Everyone knows that. He's got an advantage. He is making use of advantage in the terrain now. As for the ground forces concerned, the air he is reducing the advantages. So we'll have to keep our money and our strategic focus on along the LDC. It's not that 2 years nothing will happen and we can just relax and see, okay, let it continue. No, it's not that. We will have to keep matching him. It's a Newton's third law is applicable, action, reaction, situation. That has to come about. So if it does something, we should be prepared to see what does it imply at the operational level, what does it imply at the strategic level, and at the tactical level, and how to mitigate that risk.
Indeed, sir, what you're saying is absolutely correct. But when you hear something like that, how the Chinese are preparing for the worst case scenario, as you say, the question will obviously come that are we going to be weakened by these Chinese moves? Is that something that somebody can take away, or are we also taking steps, as you said, to bring in a certain parity between both the forces in the region, sir?
Definitely. We have to ensure that the asymmetry does not increase. There's asymmetry possibly, but the asymmetry is not along the LSC so much. We have our strengths, so we should improve on our strengths, consolidate our strengths, and we have weaknesses which we're taking care of. The infrastructure development along the LSC has been doing a massive push. Too late, but not too little now. So it's not that we're not doing anything. I did say that we are focused. We have carried out strategic rebalancing. We are giving a requisite push to infrastructure. We're giving a push to Atmanirbharta because we suddenly realized that we are dependent on so many other things. There's a changing world order, or I would say rather world disorder. So there are things which are moving. So we don't have to just look at LSC alone, because LSC can't be a standalone thing. We also have to look at the world. Our dependency on foreign imports, especially military hardware, have to reduce. We have to be economically strong. Because a strong military has to come from a strong economy, and that's where we are doing well now. We are doing well. It's not that we are not doing well. But the fact remains that we've got to continuously leading China. We have been surprised by China in 2022. We should know. We should not even hesitate to admit that we were surprised by China's intent and China's forward deployment. It happened. It happened at a time when we had the best relationships together. It was post Ahmadipura, which was
Mm.
second former top in the heads of state to great leaders. And then we went to COVID. And China, like it always does, Sun Tzu, uh, chaos, in chaos there's opportunity, took that opportunity. So we should not underestimate China. We should not overestimate China. But we have to deter China's aggressive behavior from a position of leadership. If we do not do that, you'll find the forward deployment, what we call creeping forward or salami slicing, will continue to happen.
Yeah, China does look for an opportunity, and they've been doing that with their whole Pacific effort right now. Is basically a large scale salami slice that they wanted to kind of take on, sir. But with your previous answer, there's one thing that I can't imagine not to read is the factor that we're going to have a manned hot LAC, just like the manned hot LOC that we've got. Sans the infiltration, of course, the Pakistanis are famous for their own tactics over there. But the Chinese, I'm sure there'll be some different thing which will come out. But the main point being that we will have a manned LAC. And the more frictions come in, do you foresee not just in Ladakh, but this manned LAC kind of creeping on towards the northeast as well, sir?
See, we always had a mandate. As far as India is concerned, we always had a defensive posture. The LAC is managed by the ITPP, but the defensive posture, the difference between border management and border defense. The
Absolutely.
border defense of the Indian armed forces. And we have always manned from Karakoram to Kibutu, it was manned. It was, there were certain gaps. It was thinly manned places, depending on the threat and what we call the BMP, it was the BMP, what we call the border management posture, right? And during the season, we used to go to EBMP, enhanced border management posture. Right now, we are EBMP plus, I would say, because of the threat. Right? So it's not that we are not manned, but I also look at that as a positive because China also had to man the LAC. It's not only we have to man. We already managed. We
Yes.
have increased, definitely our deployment has increased a little. But look at the Chinese deployment, which was just about, they had just about border defense regiments, and few of them, not very many. They manned very few posts. We manned all along. And now their defensive deployment and their border management has increased many folds. So it has increased many, many folds for them. So they're also bearing a cost to it. The point is whether he can afford the cost. We have afford, we are well along the LAC. I think we are strong enough. Let me say that, and I have been a forefront along the LAC. We are very strong on the LAC. And this, what is called a hot LAC, hot this thing, I think it's an incorrect word. It's not really hot. We have deployed and we will ensure territorial integrity. It's not that we will not. We are there to ensure territorial integrity and deter war, deter China's aggressive behavior. So I see this deployment as an advantage in India in many ways because China find it difficult to sustain it over a long period. They don't have that resilience. They don't have that battle hardened troops. They don't have the combat experience of managing high altitude posts the way we manage. We've done it for the last decades, 4 decades, 5 decades. Whether it's Siachen, Kargil, along the LAC, we're okay with high altitude warfare. Absolutely, we're the experts, we're the best. So it's up to China. So we should not say that, yes, it's increasing cost on us, definitely. It will have an impact, yes. It will have a financial burden, right? But then you have to afford those costs. But relatively, China will have to pay more for this.
Oh, indeed. I think a lot of times in India, when we have this conversation, we forget and you've brought it out pretty well, how the Chinese actually are supporting their troops in LAC as well, because it's not just, press of a button for them either. So it's difficult for us. And I mean, by the looks of it and the distance of it, it looks much more
Very
difficult.
long lines of It's very long lines of communication.
Sir.
If we do winter stocking, our winter stocking starts from the foot of the Himalayas. Look at their lines of communication. It's a few thousand miles. Tibet can only sustain so much and no more. It sustains population also.
True.
So it's not easy. Logistics for them is a major problem.
Absolutely, sir. So, sir, the news has that, the WNCC meetings have been obviously taking place, and within that, it was decided to go ahead with the next level of corps commanders meetings, which is going to be the 16th now. It's the dates probably are not very certain, but the meeting is going to happen. The hot points, of course, the same hot springs and mainly the Depsang, which has been a point of contention since 2013, a decade now. The question that I'd like to ask you, with the ongoing geopolitical scenario around the world, the Chinese being under a lot of pressure internally, their COVID, their finances, they have problems, and this is something that they're saying. We're not trying to put fire or put words into anybody's mouth. How do you see these talks going forward? It is not normal scenario, sir. Russia versus Ukraine, the world is under a lot of pressure. How do you see this particular juncture? Is it unique, or is it just another stepping stone into a long drawn out process that we are as it is seeing?
I think you're absolutely right. There are certain advantages in India, definitely. A world, I don't call a new world order, but a new world disorder. And with China at the center of things, China supporting Russia, China has got internal problems and external problems both. No, we always keep talking about two front and two and a half front war. But you look at China, it is the flashpoints of conflict are 5 to 6, whether it is South China Sea, East China Sea, Korea, Nepal, India, China. So they have issues there. So it's not that they have major issues. They have internal issues also. So what I really see is China would be also under pressure because their economy is taking a hit. They have other issues, and we are talking and we're two mature nations, very old civilization. Of course, we have to resolve that talks. A gun doesn't resolve issues in today's world. Both are nuclear armed nations. If you look at that. And the WMCC is a good mechanism. It's a working mechanism. I think that's for the second meeting of the WMCC, so which has taken place. And it's a very good thing that we're talking. And they have decided to hold the 16th round of post-wanted talks. Well, these talks can, as long as talks are going on, it may not yield immediate results. It has yielded results in the past. We've resolved the bonds to the disengagement. But the first process of disengagement is incomplete. It's still in the process. It's work in progress, especially in Gibson Plains and Vinod.
Mhm.
So we have to resolve that. We got to sit down. We got to create disengagement process again. We call it buffer zone, whatever it is, so that we don't come face to face. There's no escalation. So it's a long drawn out process. It's been 2 years to Galwan, as I said. And Galwan was a benchmark. It was the first time after maybe 4 decades when, of course, they were not a short fire anger, but we had fatalities. The PLA had fatalities which had not happened earlier. West earlier was some pushing, some shelling took place, and high altitude areas always temperatures are very high, are very low, and tempers are very high. Altitude tempers are very, very high. So, but still we maintained it. So, in the sense, what I'm trying to say, I think it's a very important thing that we're talking. We should continue to talk with China, with more patience. But at the same time, you have to talk from a position of strength. So we indicated to them that we can also do what we have done by occupying the Kailash Ridge, 29th, 31st of 2020. So it was a strategic signaling to China that if you can do it, we can do it. And I think it's an excellent thing to have resolved the disengagement process at Pingwangso and withdrawn. A lot of people felt that we should not have gone. But then every QPQ has a finite value in time and space. We had optimized that value. And every hill has a higher hill along the LAC, and I've said so in the show earlier also. So we have to understand that we are talking in the 16th round, but 17, 18, 19, 20, who knows? The world is changing.
Yeah.
The priorities will change, things are changing. So we have to continue to talk and look at the opportunity where we can come to a mutually agreed upon solution to the present crisis.
This is probably not the time to push any buttons anywhere around, as a matter of fact, sir. But knowing China, and this is coming towards the end of this very very interesting discussion, sir. Knowing China, the past times when China has taken steps against any country for that matter has always been when there were distractions. Uh, 62 there was a distraction, 75 there were distractions, even the Russia China spat in 69 had a lot of distractions. There were men going to the moon and this and that and everything. So the world was not interested in, going through something like this. With India, 2020, again, COVID was there. Right now, again, there's a huge distraction, sir. And a lot of China watchers started saying that this is the time that the Chinese would take steps. As a military man, sir, if you would be thinking from a Chinese angle, would you be willing to advise on such a step? One, if yes, would that step be rather India in a localized area or Taiwan, which is going to be a disaster because of the larger geopolitical implication to it? How would you see this, and how would you put the the chances of anything happening with the worsening situation geopolitically around us, sir?
I hope better sense prevails, and China doesn't take advantage of the, it can perceive an advantage, right? We have seen a very aggressive China in Taiwan. Some of the action which the Chinese have carried out in the past, especially along the straits, we've seen aggressive China. It's more than aggressive China, I would say. So I hope better sense prevails on China. China realizes its limitations. It's overextended itself. And there are internal issues of economics, there are internal issues of party politics, there are internal issues of internal dissent there. So a lot of things are happening. And this is where the apprehensions are to, when there internal turmoil, the best way for a politician to get an internal turmoil, to have an external, to get the nation together, to do something externally, to pose an external threat. So we should be prepared. We should be prepared. We cannot let us down. It has to be not, I won't say 24/7, 24/7 is a long time. We should prepare every minute, every second of it. We cannot be surprised a third time. We were surprised in 62, we are surprised in 2020, and we cannot afford a third time. The two mistakes are bad enough. So a third time, we should be prepared fully. We cannot let our guard down. We have to be prepared for the worst. And as long as we're prepared for the worst, let me assure you, nothing is going to happen. It will happen when we are not prepared. We should not get carried away with what's happening. What's happening in Ukraine, we'll handle it in a different method. There's a different way. It should not, you know, into complacency. It should numb us into complacency. Something happens or something bigger is not going to happen. No, we never can say. We can never say. Right? Like you rightly said, very rightly, that China has always taken an opportunity in chaos. Every time the world's attention was, say, 62, the world attention was the pigs. 79, Vietnam, 75, 69.
All over the place, yes.
So, very right. So that is something lesson learned. We've done mistakes, we do mistakes, we can't afford a third mistake. And we will not. We're fully prepared at all of this.
One of the things I'd like to ask you is India has been more assertive, and my last question to you, sir, is about India has been very assertive. As a matter of fact, with regards to the Quad, with regards its position, we had recently Minister Jaishankar mentioning pretty clearly that we know how to handle China, and we can handle it ourselves. We don't kind of need anybody running behind us. When the question was posed to him that you expect the world to help you when you don't want to help anybody else. So we see that assertiveness coming into India. We see the Quad especially pissed off China, if I may, sorry to use that word. We see that the Chinese taking a lot of aggressive action. Now the assertiveness of India, sir, has to be backed by something, and it has to be backed by economics and military. Diplomacy being one of the arms of this entire game. Do you see us in a place where we are today in a position to kind of assert ourselves with China as well? Because one of the first things I remember you telling me about China was China likes to deal with people with a position of strength. Then only they will respect you. Today is India in China's viewpoint. I'm not talking about our viewpoint. So in China's viewpoint, a more assertive, a more aggressive, and a more strengthened adversary than what we were when the standoff started.
Definitely, today India is a risen part. We're a global leader. If you look at the Quad also, everyone looks at India for leadership. Right? Asian countries, African countries, even Europe. You have everyone coming to India even for the Ukraine crisis, what's going on, food security, oil, and we are assertive. We have told the world that look, don't let them not teach us. We're not here to be taught. We know what's what. No one can tell us that this is what it is. We know that some of the statements coming up, we know everything. It's not that we don't know everything. So what I feel is India is an assertive India, but at the same time, the assertiveness should also be matched by economic power, by military power, by diplomatic means, and by information. Today is the world of information. So we have to synergize the time, which is the essential elements of national power, diplomatic, information, and military economics. So we have to synergize that, and we should rightly start seeking our place on the high table in the elite clubs. We have some say, but we don't have the say as a large country. We have the second largest population in the world. We have the by far the third largest military in the world, or the fourth largest battle hardened. So it's not that we don't have it. Economic, if we take PPP term, we're third. We may be fourth, fifth otherwise, but we're third. We're growing. So we may not be 5 trillionaires yet, but we're getting there very soon. So we have the power. We are assertive, and we should be assertive. We should start asserting ourselves, and we should assert in all forums. Our national interests come first and foremost, irrespective of anything else. And that is a change in India which I am seeing, where we are looking after our national interests. We should not go beyond our national interest. And mind you, no one's going to help us if it comes to a push. Right? Push comes to a shove, no one will help us. So we have to ensure that our national interest, whether it's a Quad or whether it's the BRICS or the RIC or IPSA or BIMSTEC, our national interests have to come first, our priority of national interest, irrespective of what people talk about it, and we are capable of doing it, and we are.
Very well said, sir. I think that is the bottom line that each and every Indian needs to understand. There's no question about deviating from that. As usual, sir, thank you so much for a very, very clear-headed view of India-China relations at a juncture where the world finds itself on the brink of conflict, brewing out of Europe. It's an uncertain world. Their economies are going down all over the place, so it's a bit of a distraction. As you mentioned, China loves this particular situation. It's a wait and watch, and let's hope that something, as you said, comes out of this particular series of discussions. I'm not sure whether this one or next one or the next one after that, but I'll be sure to bring you along, sir, for an analysis and, as I said, a clear-headed discussion on India-China relations. Till then, sir, Jai Hind.
Janan, thank you very much. Always a pleasure to have a conversation with you. Thank you, Aadi.
Thank you,
but
sir.
We should remain focused on China. It's like Arjun, remain focused. Let nothing distract you. Thank
Absolutely.
You very much.
Thank you, sir.